Capricorn, let me ask you something. Do you remember the moment you realized that silence was no longer weakness, but power? While they were celebrating what they thought was your downfall, the universe was quietly rewriting the ending of your story. You didn't fight back. You didn't explain yourself. You didn't defend your truth. You stepped back. And something shifted. Because this was never about revenge. This was about alignment. About an ancient law that never misses. What they sent toward you is now returning, multiplied. If this message found you, it's not by accident. Your spirit already knows. The tables have turned. Type, "I received this shift" in the comments and let your energy lock into what's unfolding. Because what you're about to hear next isn't just a story. It's the moment everything changes. Capricorn, stay with me for a moment. I'm not speaking to everyone right now. I'm speaking to you. Just you. There comes a very specific moment in your life when you realize that not every battle is meant to be fought out loud. You felt it, that quiet click inside your chest. The moment you understood that explaining yourself was costing you more than staying still. You noticed how the room changed when you stopped reacting, how the noise around you grew louder while you grew calmer. And that's when something important happened. Your silence stopped being absence. It became presence. Not the kind people applaud. The kind they feel but can't name. You didn't go quiet because you were afraid. You went quiet because you finally trusted yourself enough to step back. You saw how easily your energy was being pulled, drained, used, misunderstood. So you protected it. You chose restraint over reaction, depth over drama. And maybe there were nights when that choice felt heavy. Moments when you wondered if staying silent meant you were letting things slide. If holding back meant you were losing ground. But listen to me. You weren't shrinking. You were recalibrating. You were moving pieces without announcing the move. That's very Capricorn of you. You understand timing. You understand structure. You understand that real power doesn't rush to be seen. While others were watching your surface, you were working underground, building roots, strengthening your spine, learning where your boundaries truly are. And the truth is, not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some people only know how to enter spaces to rearrange them for their own comfort. You sensed that, even before you could explain it. So you stepped back. Not cold, not bitter, just clear. Clear enough to let life reveal itself. Because when you stop interfering, patterns become visible. You start noticing who only thrived when you were available, who grew uncomfortable when you stopped overgiving, who mistook your kindness for permission. And in that quiet observation, you learn something rare. Silence doesn't weaken truth, it sharpens it. It gives truth room to breathe, to rise on its own. That's when the universe leans in, not with drama, not with announcements, but with subtle shifts that feel almost invisible at first. A conversation that changes tone, an opportunity that arrives without effort, a door that opens where one was never meant to stay closed. You don't force it, you feel it, that gentle sense that something has rearranged itself in your favor. And you didn't have to prove a single thing, you just stayed aligned. That's the part no one tells you. When you choose inner authority over outer validation, life starts responding differently. Quieter, cleaner, more precise. So, if you've been wondering whether your silence mattered, it did. If you've questioned whether stepping back was a mistake, it wasn't. Because right now, something is settling into place. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. And as you sit with that feeling, there's one thing I want you to notice. How calm your body feels compared to before. That calm isn't emptiness, it's readiness. And from here, everything begins to move without resistance. Just like it always does when you finally stop forcing what was never meant to be chased. Stay right here with me. You saw it. Before anyone else did. And the part that still sits in your chest is how small the signs were. Not loud, not obvious. Just sharp enough to cut if you were paying attention. You were paying attention. You walked into a room and something in the air changed. Not in a dramatic way, more like a temperature drop. A smile that arrived late. A pause that lasted one beat too long. A glance that did not meet your eyes until you looked away. And you felt it. That quiet message your body sends when the surface is polite, but the energy is not. I know you tried to talk yourself out of it. You told yourself, maybe they are just stressed. Maybe they are distracted. Maybe you are overthinking, but you were not. You were reading the truth in the tiny spaces between words. The way their tone got flatter when you spoke about something you were building. The way respect started slipping, like sand through fingers, right when your light got brighter. And then the moments stacked up. A contribution you made that somehow became a group idea. A plan you mentioned in private that showed up in public with your name missing. A door you helped open, and suddenly you were standing outside it. That is the strange part about being you. You do not miss details. You do not need proof right away because your mind is already cataloging patterns. You remember timelines. You remember shifts. You remember what was said and what was avoided. And you also remember how it felt. There's that sting. Not because you needed applause, but because you gave something real and it was handled carelessly. And I want to say this softly because you do not like making it a big thing. It hurts when the people closest to you start treating your steadiness like it is nothing. It hurts when your reliability becomes expected instead of honored. It hurts when your loyalty gets mistaken for access. And still, you did not explode. You did not perform your pain. You did not walk into the room holding your receipts like weapons. You simply got quieter, not colder, not cruel, just quieter. Like a mountain pulling its energy inward before the weather changes. Because you understood something, even if you could not explain it in the moment. A fast reaction would have given them control. A big confrontation would have turned you into the story instead of their behavior. And you are not here to entertain anyone. You are here to build a life that is real. So you watched, you listened. You let their actions keep speaking until the truth became undeniable. That is not weakness. That is discipline. That is emotional maturity in a world that rewards noise. And maybe there were moments late at night when you questioned yourself. Should I say something? Should I defend myself? Should I call it out? But you felt it again. That inner voice, that calm signal, not yet. Because you were not being delayed, you were being positioned. There is a difference. And you know it now. Because the more you stopped reacting, the more they started unraveling. People who depend on your energy panic when you stop feeding the dynamic. People who rely on your silence to keep their image clean get nervous when you simply step back and let reality stand on its own. So, let me ask you something. What did you notice the moment you stopped explaining? Who got louder? Who got sharper? Who started telling on themselves without you saying a word? Just sit with that. Because the truth is, your silence did not make you smaller. It made the room reveal itself. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You can only choose what you do with what you know. And right now, you are choosing yourself, quietly, clearly, completely. And as you hold that line, you may start to feel it, that subtle shift, like the world is rearranging without you pushing, like something unseen is keeping track with perfect memory. And you do not have to force anything. You only have to stay honest with what you already felt the first time the air changed. They misread you, and not in a small way. In the kind of way that changes everything. They watched you grow quieter and told themselves a story that felt convenient, that you were tired, that you were intimidated, that you had finally reached your limit. They confused your stillness with surrender. And I want you to notice something here, because this part matters. People only underestimate what they do not understand. They live in a world where strength is loud, where power needs witnesses, where silence means losing ground. So, when you stopped explaining, when you stopped correcting them, when you stopped reacting, on cue, they assumed you were running out of breath. They never considered that you were conserving it. You see, Capricorn, you do not move without intention. When you step back, it is not retreat, it is recalibration. You begin to rearrange the inner structure. You check the foundation. You reinforce what will carry you long term. That kind of work does not make noise. And because they could not see it, they filled the silence with assumptions. They thought you were lost. But you were mapping a longer road. They thought you were breaking. But pressure has never broken you. It shapes you. Like stone beneath years of weather. Like a mountain that does not argue with the storm. It simply remains. That is what they missed. They were busy measuring strength by reaction speed, by volume, by how quickly someone pushes back. You were measuring something else entirely: endurance, stability, timing, and while they kept moving fast, trying to stay visible, trying to stay ahead, you slowed down. Not because you were behind, but because you knew where you were going. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you stop proving yourself. A calm that settles into your body when you realize you do not need permission to outgrow a room. That calm is unsettling to people who depend on comparison. So, they misjudged you. They thought you were shrinking when you were strengthening your core. They thought you were uncertain when you were getting clear. They thought you were giving up when you were letting go of distractions. And the irony is, their miscalculation gave you exactly what you needed. Space. Space to think without interference. Space to feel without noise. Space to decide what still deserves your energy. You stopped reacting and started refining. That is a very specific kind of power. The kind that does not need validation to function. And here is something I want you to hear clearly, because this is not said often enough. Being underestimated is not a disadvantage when you know who you are. It is protection. It keeps eyes off your process. It keeps hands off your work. It gives you room to move without resistance. They expected you to collapse. They prepared for drama. They waited for a reaction. Instead, you stayed grounded. And in that grounded state, your perspective changed. You began to see who was rushing, who was posturing, who was borrowing confidence instead of building it. And you did not need to confront it. You simply outgrew the frequency. That is what mountains do. They do not chase the wind. They do not explain themselves to the storm. They stay. And over time, everything else adjusts around them. So, if you have felt misunderstood lately, if you have sensed people projecting weakness onto your quiet moments, take a breath. That misunderstanding is not harming you. It is revealing them. And somewhere in this stillness, without effort, without announcement, the ground beneath you is becoming more solid. You may not see the shift yet, but you can feel it. That subtle steadiness, that inner knowing, the sense that nothing you built quietly can be undone by noise. And as you rest into that truth, life begins responding differently. Less friction, more precision. Almost as if something unseen has taken note of your restraint and decided to move on your behalf. You do not need to rush toward it. Just stay exactly where you are. There is a moment, Capricorn, when you stop trying to correct the world. Not because you gave up, but because you finally understood that some things do not respond to force. You felt that moment arrive quietly. It did not announce itself. It did not come with relief or certainty. It came as a soft decision in your chest. I will not chase this. I will not fight this. I will not prove what does not need proving. And when you made that choice, something larger stepped forward. This was never about revenge. You know that. Your spirit has always known that. Revenge is loud, reactive, messy. What began to move around you was something older, calmer, precise, balance. The kind that does not need your participation to work. Because every word spoken behind your back carries weight. Every truth bent for convenience leaves a trace. Every moment someone lifted themselves by pressing you down created a distortion. And distortions do not last. You did not need to keep score. You did not need to remember details or collect proof. Life remembers for you. Quietly. Perfectly. While you were tending to your own ground, learning how to breathe again, learning how to trust your timing, something unseen was taking notes. Not with judgment, with accuracy. That is the part most people miss. The universe does not rush. It does not panic. It does not argue. It adjusts. And when you step back, you stopped interfering with that adjustment. You let things fall where they naturally would. At first, it may have looked like nothing was happening, like silence had swallowed the situation whole. But stillness is deceptive. Stillness is where gravity does its work. That is when the weight of intention matters most. People who moved without integrity began to feel resistance in unexpected places. Conversations stopped flowing. Support thinned out. Things that once came easily started requiring effort. Not dramatically, not publicly. Just enough to unsettle them. Because when actions are out of alignment, life does not punish. It mirrors. And the mirror is patient. You did not have to point anything out. You did not have to name what was wrong. You simply stopped carrying what was never yours. And that is when you may have noticed it. A strange sense of relief, a loosening in your shoulders, a calm you had not felt in a long time. Not because the situation was resolved, but because you were. You chose dignity over reaction, and dignity has a frequency that clears space. That frequency invites support from directions you cannot predict. It reroutes outcomes without announcement. That is why things start to shift after you let go. A message arrives at the right time. Someone sees you clearly without explanation. An opportunity opens that does not require compromise. And you realize slowly that you were never meant to fight this battle. You were meant to stay aligned and let life do what it does best. Restore balance. So, if you have felt lately like something unseen has been moving while you remain still, you are not imagining it. That is the system correcting itself. Not loudly, not aggressively, but thoroughly. And as you continue standing where you are, rooted, clear, unbothered, you may start to sense that the air around you feels different now. Lighter, more honest. As if the weight you carried for others has finally been returned to where it belongs. Just notice that feeling, because once balance begins to settle, it does not stop. It keeps rearranging things until everything sits where it truly should. And you do not need to guide it. You only need to remain steady as it works. When you stopped responding, that is when they became uneasy. Not because you said something wrong, but because you said nothing at all. You felt the shift, didn't you? The moment your silence entered the room and changed the temperature. People who rely on reaction do not know what to do when there is none. They wait for a response so they can adjust the story. They expect emotion so they can redirect it. And when you stayed calm, when you stayed still, their rhythm broke. You didn't argue. You didn't clarify. You didn't defend your intentions. You simply held your ground. And that empty space you created, that pause, became uncomfortable for them. Because without your reaction, there was no script left to follow. No one to point at. No one to provoke. No one to quietly assign blame. They could no longer frame you as too sensitive, too emotional, too difficult. Your silence took that power away. And something interesting happened. They began speaking more, explaining more, overreaching, trying to fill the gap you left behind. You might have noticed it in the way stories started changing, in the way details did not line up, in the way tension showed up where there was once confidence. When someone depends on distraction, stillness exposes them. You did not have to reveal anything. You did not have to point out contradictions. Life did that for you, because silence has weight, and when you carry it with steadiness, it becomes a mirror. People see themselves more clearly when you stop reacting. They hear their own words echo. They feel the imbalance they created without you naming it, and that unsettles them. You could feel it in their restlessness, in the way their energy searched for yours and found nothing to hold on to. That is when masks slip, not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, in small moments that add up. A tone that sharpens too quickly, a comment that goes too far, an explanation that arrives unprompted. You didn't ask for any of it, you just stayed quiet. And in that quiet, truth started moving on its own. That is the part people misunderstand. Silence is not absence, it is pressure. It removes distraction, it removes cover, it leaves behavior standing alone. You were not avoiding conflict. You were refusing to participate in something that did not honor you. And because of that choice, you kept your clarity. You did not lose your center trying to manage someone else's discomfort. You did not carry responsibility for their choices. You let them stand with what they created. That takes strength, the kind that does not raise its voice. And I know there were moments when this felt lonely, when you wondered if being quiet meant being invisible. But look closer. You were never unseen. You were simply no longer performing. And when performance stops, truth becomes obvious. That is why people began revealing themselves without you lifting a finger, because you gave them space to show who they were when no one was interrupting them. That space is sacred. It protects your peace. It preserves your energy. It allows reality to surface naturally. And once reality is visible, there is no need for confrontation. There is only choice. What you engage with, what you release, what you no longer explain. So, if you have felt lately that things are becoming clearer, even if not easier, that is not coincidence. That is the effect of your restraint. Your silence did not erase the truth, it amplified it. And as you remain steady, as you continue to choose dignity over reaction, you may notice something else beginning to happen. Not outside first, but inside. A quiet confidence. A sense of knowing that you no longer need to prove what time will reveal on its own. And when that knowing settles in, the world responds differently. Not because you demanded it, but because clarity has a way of rearranging everything around it. It's subtle at first. So subtle you might almost miss it. A quiet reversal, a soft echo returning. Not with noise, not with drama, just a familiar feeling showing up in someone else's life. You recognize it immediately because you've lived it. That sense of being slightly on the outside, of wondering why doors feel heavier to open, of feeling questioned after years of proving yourself, and something inside you pauses. Because you know that feeling, you carried it longer than you ever talked about. There were times when you felt isolated even in rooms full of people, moments when your competence was suddenly up for debate, when opportunities slowed down for reasons no one could clearly explain. You remember how confusing that was, how personal it felt, how quiet you had to be just to keep going. And now, without effort, without intention, you notice something. That same weight has shifted. It's no longer resting on your shoulders. You see it in their hesitation, in the way their confidence flickers, in the way certainty leaves the room right when it used to follow them. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to feel familiar. This is the part people misunderstand. It's not punishment, it's not payback, it's resonance. Energy completing its own circle. The universe doesn't punish behavior, it reflects it. And when someone creates an environment where doubt lives, where trust is bent, where others are diminished to make space for ego, that environment eventually closes in on the one who shaped it. You didn't send it back, you didn't wish it on them, you simply stopped absorbing it. And once you did, it had to go somewhere. That's the mirror. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't explain, it simply places people inside the emotional reality they once created. So, when you see them struggling now, questioning themselves, feeling overlooked, second-guessing their worth, something in you feels calm. Not satisfied, not smug, just grounded. Because you understand something deeper now. What felt like rejection was redirection. What felt like isolation was preparation. Those moments when your name was questioned taught you to anchor your value internally. Those stalled opportunities taught you patience and precision. That period of being misunderstood taught you discernment. You grew roots there, and roots don't announce themselves, they just hold. Meanwhile, the ones who relied on external validation are now learning what it feels like when that support wavers. And that lesson is not cruel, it's necessary. Because awareness doesn't arrive gently when it's been avoided for too long. Still, you don't celebrate this. You witness it, with compassion, with distance. You know better than to confuse reflection with revenge. You know that growth often comes disguised as discomfort. And you also know that you are no longer meant to stand in that frequency. Your nervous system knows it too. You feel steadier now, more centered, less reactive. You're not bracing for impact anymore. You're standing on ground that finally feels solid. And as this realization settles in, another truth quietly emerges. You didn't lose anything back then. You were being repositioned. Your absence from certain spaces made room for alignment elsewhere. Your silence rewired your strength. Your restraint refined your authority. And now, as the mirror continues to do its work, you don't need to look back. You don't need closure from people who are still learning. You carry something else now. Clarity, self-trust, peace that doesn't depend on outcomes. And with that peace comes a gentle momentum, a sense that life is moving again, not against you, but with you. And as you breathe into that feeling, you might notice it, that quiet readiness, that inner signal that says something is aligning, not loudly, not urgently, just steadily, as if the path ahead is opening because you finally stopped walking backward. While they were busy trying to keep things looking right, you were doing something very different. You stopped performing. You stopped shaping yourself to fit expectations that were never built with you in mind. And quietly, without announcing it, you began to heal. Not the kind of healing that looks pretty from the outside. The real kind. The kind that happens late at night, when no one is watching. When you finally admit to yourself what cost you too much. You let old disappointments surface. You let fatigue speak. You let your body release what it had been holding for years. And in that honesty, you rebuilt, piece by piece, not chasing applause, not rushing progress. You focused on foundation, on strength that doesn't shake when attention fades, on discipline that doesn't need praise to stay consistent. You remembered who you are when no one is clapping. That is when your authority returned, not as arrogance, as calm. You stopped explaining your worth because you no longer questioned it. You stopped chasing alignment because you became it. And while others were adjusting their image, you were adjusting your life. That difference matters, because image needs maintenance. Foundation holds on its own. And now, something feels easier. Not because life became effortless, but because resistance stopped coming from inside you. Opportunities begin showing up without you forcing timing. The right people recognize you without needing a long introduction. Conversations feel cleaner, agreements feel solid, trust feels mutual. You notice that what reaches you now does not require you to shrink or overextend or prove. It meets you where you are. That is harvest energy, quiet, steady, earned, the kind that lasts because it was built slowly. You may not even realize how far you've come until you compare how you move now to how you once moved. There is less urgency, less anxiety, less need to control outcomes. You trust your rhythm, you trust your timing, and that trust changes the way life responds to you. People sense it. They feel your steadiness before you say a word. They respect your boundaries without you having to defend them. That is what happens when you stop negotiating your value. You don't just attract opportunities, you attract the right ones, the kind that don't collapse under pressure, the kind that grow with you. This is not flashy success. It is sustainable success, the kind Capricorn understands, built on patience, reinforced by integrity, protected by discernment. You are not rushing to the finish line. You are building something that stays standing when trends pass. And if you look closely, you'll notice something else. You are no longer watching them. You're too busy living. Their struggle feels distant now, not because you hardened, but because you moved on. Your attention is no longer tied to who doubted you. It's invested in what supports you. That is the real shift. Winning without bitterness, advancing without noise, growing without explanation. And as this season continues to unfold, there is a quiet sense of confirmation inside you, a knowing that everything you endured was not wasted. It was preparation. And now, as you stand in what you've built, you don't need to announce it. The right things are already finding their way to you, naturally, effortlessly, just as they do when you finally align with your own pace and let the rest fall into place. There is something different about the air now. You can feel it, not excitement, not urgency, clarity, the kind that settles in slowly, like morning light finding its way into a quiet room. This is what it feels like when a chapter closes without noise, no announcements, no explanations owed, just a sense that you are no longer standing where you once were. And I want to say this gently, Capricorn, because you tend to carry more than you show. You do not need to apologize for who you've become. You did not arrive here by accident. You earned this version of yourself one choice at a time, through discipline that no one clapped for, through integrity that cost you comfort, through patience that tested every part of you. You stayed steady when it would have been easier to harden or disappear, and that matters. Because strength like this does not come from dominance. It comes from alignment. You are not louder now. You are clearer. You are not colder. You are more discerning. You no longer shrink to make the room feel balanced. You let the room adjust to you. That shift may feel unfamiliar at first. You might catch yourself pausing, wondering if you should soften your edges, if you should explain yourself again, if you should dim what has grown. But listen, that instinct belongs to an older version of you, one that survived by adapting. You don't need that strategy anymore. You are not becoming someone else. You are returning to who you always were before life asked you to compromise. This version of you does not chase approval. It does not negotiate values. It does not rush timing. It stands. And because you stand, the ground feels different. The same situations no longer pull you off center. The same people no longer trigger the same reactions. You've learned where your energy belongs. And that awareness changes everything. You don't prove your worth now. You demonstrate it by how you move, by what you tolerate, by what you refuse to carry. That is quiet authority. And yes, the board has shifted. Not because you pushed it, but because you stopped playing a game that required you to lose yourself. What once felt like resistance has turned into confirmation. What once felt like waiting now feels like readiness. And as you step into this space, there is one thing I want you to hold on to. Do not make yourself smaller to preserve old comfort. Do not explain your growth to people who benefited from your restraint. You don't owe anyone access to your light. Let it be seen by those who know how to stand beside it. This is not arrogance. It's self-respect, the kind that builds lives instead of stories. So, if you feel that subtle confidence rising, that calm sense of arrival, that grounded certainty that you're exactly where you need to be, trust it. That feeling is not ego, it's alignment. And from this place, you don't have to force what comes next. You allow it. You let life meet you at the level you've grown into. Because silence was never your ending, it was your turning point. the move that changed everything without a single word. And now, you walk forward not to prove anything, but to live fully and without apology. Just breathe that in. This is your pace now. Before we close this space tonight, I want you to notice something, how calm your body feels compared to when this message began. That calm is not emptiness, it's certainty. You didn't lose your voice. You learned when not to use it. You didn't fall behind. You stepped into your own timing, and nothing about that was accidental. So, if you're sitting there right now, maybe in the quiet of your room, maybe with this playing softly in the background, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not late. You are not behind. And you are not wrong for how you moved. Your silence wasn't a mistake. It was wisdom. It was the moment you stopped fighting the current and allowed the river to carry you exactly where you needed to be. If this message reached you tonight, it's because something in you was ready to remember who you are. And if you feel it, if something settled inside you, even just a little, I invite you to type, "I trust my timing," in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. Let it be a quiet declaration that you are done doubting the path that shaped you. And if this space felt like home, if these words felt like they spoke directly to you, stay connected. Subscribe, turn on notifications. This isn't just a channel, it's a place where Capricorn energy is understood, respected, and honored. Because this journey doesn't end here. The next message is already forming. The next shift is already moving. And what's coming next will meet you at the level you've grown into. Until then, stay grounded, stay clear, and most of all, keep trusting yourself. The universe already does. I'll see you soon.